Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, November the 14th, show number 1195. I am your host, Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Good. On tonight's show, as always, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim's going to talk about the MacBook Air versus the iPad Pro. I've seen a lot of comments about this, and it's interesting to get people's take on it. And generally, I found this is one of those arguments that is not solvable in an objective, technical kind of way. That this device has more RAM, or this has a bigger hard drive, or those kinds of nerdy tech stuff. Your choice between a MacBook Air and an iPad Pro comes down to each individual person, what the individual person needs. I find that really interesting. It gets much more specific to the individual and what they want and what they want to accomplish with a portable computing device than it ever has before. So we'll talk to Jim about that. We'll also talk about the Apple stock price swoon. Apple has lost 20% of its value in the last less than a month. One of the interesting tweets I saw, which would make most stock market people fall down off their chairs, Apple and Amazon increasingly, this is from Neil Seibert, Apple and Amazon increasingly seem attached to the hip when it comes to Wall Street and share price. The two companies have lost a combined $425 billion in market capitalization over the past 6 weeks. Amazon lost $210 billion. Apple's lost $215 billion of market capitalization. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to the average person. In this case, certainly with Apple and probably with Amazon, it literally has nothing to do with the health of the company. Both companies are, for all intents and purposes, healthy companies. So why is their stock going in the toilet? I'll talk to Jim about that later on in the show. We're also going to talk in our starting point photography segment. This schmuck photographer is suing Adobe, saying a bug deleted files worth $250,000. Guy lost 100,000 files he had developed over 10 years. Apparently a known bug in Adobe software deleted all of his data.
But did he manage his data properly?
Ding, 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 ding. Now, to be fair, Adobe still is in the wrong here. Adobe should not, even if he had 15 backups all over the world, doesn't matter. Adobe software should not delete your files in the way that he described. But regardless of that, he still should have had a backup, multiple backups. That's what we'll talk about on the starting point for every segment.
But they didn't delete it. A bug did.
The bug is part of their software.
Okay.
The software that they gave to the user and told the user to use, and he used the way it was supposed to be used.
Oh, I see. That I thought you meant like something that was inadvertently done.
No.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in the starting point for every segment. Also, we got a very big news today. We are welcoming on board the show a new sponsor. Our prize sponsor for the next few months is going to be the nice folks at ZAGG, ZAGG.com. ZAGG is a company that's been around for a long time. They're a global leader in accessories and technologies that empower mobile lifestyles. The company has an award-winning product portfolio that includes screen protection, power management solutions, mobile keyboards, social tech, and personal audio sold under the Visible Shield tags, Mophie, ZAGG, iFrogs, and Bravin brands. ZAGG products are available worldwide. Can be found at leading retailers including Apple, Best Buy, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, Walmart, Target, and Amazon. For more information, please visit the company's websites at zagg.com or my favorite one of their companies, Mophie.com, MOPHIE.com. Mophie is a company that's been around for a lot of years. I remember their very first products, showing them off at Macworld Expo many years ago and thinking this was really cool. Basically, they call them juice packs. And a Mophie juice pack is a case that you slip your iPhone into, and the case is a battery in and of itself. And usually there's a little switch in the bottom of it. So you charge up the case, the battery case, the juice pack. Take that with you. Put your iPhone in it when you're losing juice or you're running low. You just flip a switch and the battery turns on and it charges up your iPhone. It's kind of a cool little product. Great for those folks who find themselves not so much anymore nowadays, because for the most part nowadays, most of us, our iPhones last us the day. A new iPhone. Poor Melissa's iPhone doesn't. You have to charge yours up constantly, don't you?
Yes.
A Mophie case would help you with that problem. Because by noon, when your phone is now dying, because it's an iPhone 6 Plus and the battery is not as good as it used to be, you could use a Mophie case and just plug it in, and then for the rest of the day, you'd have juice for the rest of your day. For me, most of the time, I don't need a battery case anymore because I don't leave the house. And when I do, I don't use the phone as much as I used to for photography, for Twitter, for Facebook, whatever it is. But when I travel, I do notice I use my phone a lot. When we were in Australia, I think the first week I was determined, because I had just gotten the iPhone 10, the first week I was determined to just use the iPhone 10 because I wanted to see what kind of photos it took. And the photos it took were really, really good. And therefore, I kept taking more and more photos. And I would notice because we were getting up early in the morning, by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I was running out of juice. And so I had to, somewhere around here.
We cleaned up, so he doesn't know where anything is.
She's not wrong.
It's true. He's completely lost. He doesn't have his insanity, madness, explosion of cords and mess around him.
What do you do, lady?
Oh, my gosh. What are you looking for?
My backup battery pack. I would carry around a backup battery pack in the backpack. Well, that was a bit of a pain, so I would have loved to have a Mophie then, but they didn't have them for the iPhone 10 at the time, so now they're going to be sending it to us. Mosquito says, ZAGG makes some decent stuff. Hope they treat you well, Shawn. I hope they do, too. One of the keys is you guys, listeners both in the archive and on the live show, I need you guys to help me make them treat me well. What it is that if between now and the first prize draws of the ZAGG stuff will be the first Wednesday in December. I think it's the 5th. So between now and then, I've got to show the ZAGG folks that there is value in your Mac life, in Starting Point Photography. So I need you guys to help me. When I tweet stuff, I need you to retweet it for me. When I Facebook stuff, I need you to share it on Facebook. I need you to like stuff on Instagram. I need you to mention at ZAGG Daily. Poor guys at ZAGG don't even own their own Twitter handle. ZAGG. It's owned by some guy.
Oh.
So it's ZAGG Daily. So right now, you can tweet out, hey, folks at ZAGG Daily, thanks very much for being the prize sponsor of Your Mac Life. Whenever you're listening to this, whether you're listening to live right now, whether you're tuning into the archive, do that right now. On Facebook, same thing. Tag ZAGG on Facebook. So
Tag ZAGG. Kind of catchy.
So what we want to do is show them come December 5th that there is value in Your Mac Life, and then perhaps they would be the trip sponsor for Your Mac Life in Lisbon, which would be very cool. Fingers crossed. Help us out. At ZAGG Daily, ZAGG Daily.com, at ZAGG Daily. Their website, ZAGG.com. And if you've used ZAGG products, iFrogs, Bravin, I know back in the day when iFrogs wasn't a ZAGG company, I used their headphones. Mophie, Invisible Shield, used to use Invisible Shield too. Again, I saw a demonstration of their stuff at a Macworld Expo. If you use their products, send us an email. And if you say nice things about them, we'll read them on the air. To enter the contest, that's right. I knew that this is what I was forgetting. This is what I was forgetting. I remembered. What you can... Those folks who have subscribed to Your Mac Life, you're automatically entered into the contest just like every other contest we have. But for this contest, you have to send an email, if you're not a subscriber, to zag@yourmaclifeshow.com, because we're going to put those into a separate email virtual hat for ZAGG drawings. Oh, yes. Don't worry, we're not going to give your email address to the folks at ZAGG. They thought that they could do that, and I said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't want to give people your email address, because they're just going to add you to a mailing list. If you want to join the mailing list, go to zag.com and join the mailing list. So you folks who subscribe, if you want an extra entry form, you're more than welcome to send an email to zag@yourmaclifeshow.com. But if you're not a subscriber, this is a special contest, so you have to send an email to zag@yourmaclifeshow.com. It doesn't matter what's in the body of the email. I just want your email address. And again, I'm not going to do anything with your email address. I don't sell them or share them or do anything like that. And as always, if you want to subscribe to Your Mac Life, you're more than welcome to. You go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. On the left-hand side, you can click on the link that's up there. You can subscribe for $2, $5, $10, $15 a month, whatever you so choose. You can buy me a coffee using the coffee.com thing. You can also, because tis the season for shopping on Amazon.com, you can go to Amazon.com through our website, and we'd appreciate it if you did that way. If you're going to shop on Amazon.com, come to yourmaclifeshow.com first, and then just click on one of the links we've got there. That'll take you to that link in Amazon. You don't have to buy that thing, but then you do a search on Amazon for the thing that you were going to buy anyway. And because you came through our website, Amazon gives us a little bit of a kickback, a pimp fee, as Jay Curtis used to call it, for anything you buy during that session at Amazon.com. So you get your Amazon.com stuff, and you give us a little bit of support as well, so we would appreciate it if you did that. Later in the show, we're going to talk about backup. Why backups are important, how to do efficient backups, and when to do backups. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks, to Your Mac Life. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening. On our phone, as always, we have a good friend, Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing? Surprising no one, Jim's at a bar.
Yes.
Heineken in hand.
Yes.
Also not a surprise. When did you first started drinking Heineken, Jim?
Oh, let's see. Probably around it was the early 2000s.
I got to admire, as much as I hate it, I got to admire your commitment to Heineken. You have not wavered a bit from the moment I met you to this very moment in your love of that beer, have you?
No.
Do you even try other beers?
Not if I can help it. See, but here's the thing. I'm the type of person that will go to a restaurant and order the exact same thing every time.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
Yeah, because I figure if I'm going to go, I know what I like in the taste of beer, and that's Heineken. So I don't like beer. I like Heineken. So if I go to a restaurant and there's something I really like, why would I take a chance of eating something that I hate when I could have had something that I really like? So I'll order what I really like instead.
Oh, man, that is an odd way of going about your life, dude.
It's true. That's how I go. At each restaurant, I have the things that I like.
I think
and that's it.
I think the most amusing thing about Jim and you many of you haven't had the joy of doing this, but I've been to places where Jim has walked into the bar, gone to the bar, Heineken. They say we don't have any. Jim leaves. Literally, yeah. Jim leaves the bar. We were at the Chieftain One Macworld Expo, and there was like 15 people there. And we're all like, hey, having a great time. Chieftain's a fun bar. They didn't have Heineken. You left, and like the Pied Piper of Heineken, everyone's left to go with you.
Yeah, and we all went to the 3rd Street Bar and Grill and got a bucket of Heineken. Literally a bucket.
A bucket of Heineken. I know. But like I said, I got to admire your commitment to the brand, even if I don't like it myself. It's very funny. So on tonight's show, we wanted to talk about one of the things I've seen in a lot of the reviews of both the MacBook Air and the iPad Pro. The reviews came out around the same time. Is it seems like a lot of people are trying very, very hard to say one is better than the other, or you should choose one over the other. Am I right, Jim, in saying, I said this off the top of the show, for the most part, it's not a matter of which one of those things is the best device. It's really a case of what's the best device for you.
Well, that's pretty much sums up my review of the 12.9-inch iPad. I don't have a MacBook Air, but the MacBook Air is the absolute perfect computer for a lot of people, and there's nothing you can do or say to change their mind from that. They don't want an iPad. They don't want a MacBook Pro. They don't want anything else. They want a MacBook Air, and that is the perfect thing. And you know what? When you look at what they do, it is the perfect computer. So there are a lot of people that love the iPad Pro. It depends on your personal preference. I mean, Apple has a lot of technology and devices out there that are really, really good depending on what you want to do, how you live your life.
Yeah.
And that's the device that you should pick. I mean, that's why a lot of the reviews that you see that pit one against the other aren't really relevant.
Yeah.
Because it's not about one or the other. It's actually both depending on what you do.
Yeah, I think that's the first time in a long time I can say that about an Apple product, that it's so specific to the person. It's not this has more RAM or this has a better core processor or this has a better screen. It's very
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, exactly. It's what do you need a device to do, and that's how you'll pick whether it's the Air or whether it's the iPad Pro. I don't know if I've seen that. I don't know if I've seen that much of a difference or that much of a stark difference in Apple products in a very long time.
Well, I think up until now, there has been a very clear line between the products, and no matter if you wanted to do something, there was one choice.
Yes.
Well, if you're doing that, then you really need a computer. If you're only doing that, yeah, an iPad will work. But now we're at the point where the iPad is probably even more powerful.
Yeah.
But that isn't the deciding factor. And now it's more, well, if you're doing this, you could use a Mac or an iPad.
Yeah.
And you know, for it seems only for reviewers, they're confused by that.
Yes. Yes.
You know, the average person, I don't think is as confused as reviewers are. And you know, that it's an odd thing to have happen where the general public seems to know what they want and reviewers don't. But it's true. You know, I mean, I can see using the 12.99-inch iPad for anything that I really need to do.
Yep.
But because of habit and because, of 25 years or so working with Mac, I love my Mac. I would not give up my Mac.
Yep.
So I use both.
I wouldn't give up my Mac desktop, but I can see very easily how I could, for our starting point photography trip to Lisbon next March, I could very easily use an iPad Pro to do all the things I would normally do on a trip like that. And that's the first time I've been able to say that. That's the first time I've been able to say I would leave a laptop at home and just take an iPad with me.
So I did that. I went to my grandmother's birthday.
Yep.
And I took my computer because it's my fail-safe. If anything happened with the site, I know I can get in and, do whatever. But all I used on that trip was my 10.5-inch iPad Pro.
Yeah.
And that was the week during the event, so the new ones hadn't come out yet.
Yep.
But that's all I used. So I watched movies on the plane. I did some stuff, when I was there. I never took out my Mac, not once. It sat in the bag.
The Verge had a story last week, MacBook Air versus iPad Pro was a choice between the past and the future. Would you agree with that?
No.
No, neither would I.
No, I just don't. I think it depends on the person. And, framing it like that is wrong, in my opinion, because there could be somebody like us, or, maybe even 10 years older that is really comfortable with a computer and feels, even if they stay at home most of the time doing their computing, and feels, this is all that I need. Most people have a phone.
Yep. So
this is what I really need. And, it's not the past or the future. It's what they really need. And there are a lot of people along those same lines. And my grandmother has an iPad.
Yeah.
She loves her iPad. She's 90. She loves her iPad. She does not want anything to do with a computer, ever.
Yeah.
She had 12 kids, and she's got like 80 grandkids and 80 great grandkids. They all tried for years to get her a computer, and she didn't want it. But the iPad came out. She's all over it. I text her all the time.
Yeah.
She uses emojis and all kinds of shit in there. I mean, it's great.
That being said, and you said you sort of alluded to this before I asked the question, is it time for the MacBook Air to get cellular connectivity? Or has that time passed from the point of view that we all have cell phones now? We can all do personal hotspots on our cell phones.
No, I don't. I think that time is long past.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time when we talked about cellular connectivity for a Mac, but what would happen is that people would download like 20 gig files and have $3,000 bills, and I don't think that that's where we're at right now. I think with Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, even so ubiquitous at restaurants and businesses and even some entire towns.
Yes.
I don't think that we're at the point where computers need cell.
I think that if it was different from the point of view of we didn't have a cell phone that we could do a hotspot with, then yes, I would say an LTE MacBook would be useful. But like I said, most of us now, even if we don't have unlimited data, I wouldn't use my iPhone as a hotspot unless it was an absolute necessary evil of doing that, because I'm limited in data. But a lot of folks don't have that limit, and they could easily use their...
Well, now, to be fair, everybody has that limit, because once you go over a certain amount of data,
True.
then the phone company is going to be emailing you saying, hey, we noticed on your supposedly unlimited account that you use this much data, or 10 gigs or 20 gigs. If you do that again, we're going to cut you off.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, there are limits on unlimited plans. They just say that because it's a marketing tool.
When I've ever, the few times I've used it as a hotspot, my iPhone's a hotspot, it's always been just to quickly check email. It's never been to download things to my because I don't get email on my phone. I only get email on my laptop, and so it was just to quickly get email while I was traveling.
Why?
Are you in the kiddie pool, that bar?
It's a busy night.
Are there children there?
No, there's no children there.
Okay, it sounds like
somebody talking over the mic.
Oh, okay, all right. So yeah, for me, I think there was a time when Apple and its customers could legitimately make a claim for LTE on a MacBook, even a Pro or the Air. Like you said, that time is long past, and there's absolutely no need for it nowadays.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
You posted on the Loop, Johnny Ive and the new iPad Pro. You said, or I've said, I think your responsibility about the iPad Pro and changing goes further back. It starts with the determination not to fall into the trap of just making things different. I think one of the most important things that you can change is that you change something not to make it different, but to make it better. That, I think, is the key to how and why Apple does things, isn't it?
Well, I really do think it is, and I think that's the trap that a lot of others fall into, is that they make changes to things, to their apps, to their hardware, because they feel that customers want something different. But customers don't want something different. Customers want something better.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask them what's better, then you'll get 1,000 different answers. And it's up to you to determine what is actually better. So, I mean, that's where you just have to stop and say, okay, we have a plan here, and we're going to follow this plan, and we're going to make the product better. But, some companies don't do that, and that's where you see a whole lot of backlash.
Yeah, yeah.
And typically with Apple, you don't see a whole lot of backlash.
Certainly not of that kind. The backlash they get is usually stupidity. Now, that being said, and the reason why I asked the question was to lead into this. Samsung has announced or is announcing a foldable phone. Do you think that falls in the category of change just to be different, or change because it's better?
Well, it depends on why they're doing it, and it depends on how it works. I mean, how much can you fold the phone? Is it half? Is it a quarter? I mean, I don't know. I've never had a foldable phone.
It still looks like a brick to me, though.
I don't have a problem with the phone the way that it is. Yeah. So if 99% of the population doesn't have a problem with the phone the way it is, what problem are they trying to solve?
Yes.
And if there isn't a problem besides being the first one with a foldable phone, well, then I don't get it.
Yeah. I
mean, if Samsung comes out with a foldable phone and everybody says, oh, it solved this problem for me, okay. Yeah. Well, then there's a valid reason for making that product. Otherwise, it's like a 3D TV.
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, it's at CES. Everybody freaks out over it. Nobody bought it, and it goes away.
Yep.
I mean, and that's very typical of those types of products where it doesn't seem to fix a problem.
Yep.
If you look at the new iPad, well, what did the 12.9-inch iPad fix? Well, it took away the home button and implemented Face ID, which is more secure.
Yes.
It brought the actual physical size of the iPad down from a much larger, I don't know what the dimension was, but much larger, to actual 12.9.
Yeah.
Or maybe 13 if you add a little bit on the edge. So, there's things that design did to help people. And I, for one, noticed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very noticeable when you do that. So, yeah, there are reasons to change things around. There are reasons to put out a new design. But if you're just putting it out because you want to be first, then I don't know what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's a product I would typically steer away from.
I think I get the idea behind it from the point of view of consumers have shown they do want larger screens, but there comes a point where you don't want to turn the phone into a real full-fledged tablet. So this idea of the folding phone, a folding screen, basically, is their attempt at solving this solution. But I don't see it as a real solution, especially considering, at least the pictures I've seen, this thing is now twice as thick as a regular phone. I don't really see the point.
Well, then how do you fold it?
Well, when it folds, it's twice as thick as a regular phone.
Okay. And how much does it fold?
It folds in half.
Okay, but then it's twice as thick.
Yeah, exactly.
So where's the solution and what is the problem?
That's right, exactly. I mean, the problem is consumers want bigger screens, but at some point, a consumer, if they want a bigger screen, depending on what the reason why they want it, they'll just buy a tablet. And if they're going to buy a tablet, they're going to buy an iPad. So,
yeah, so they're screwed either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Way to go, Samsung.
Nice job. Moving on.
Good talk.
Good talk. The Neil Seibart tweeted something today I thought was really interesting. He said, Apple and Amazon increasingly seem attached at the hip when it comes to Wall Street and the share price. The two companies have lost a combined $425 billion in market capitalization over the past 6 weeks. Amazon lost $210 billion. Apple's lost $215 billion. Jim, Apple is down from its 1-year high on October 3rd of $233, where today it closed at $186. A month and a half or 6 weeks later, they've lost almost $60 a share off their price. Should that be a concern for Apple, the market, individual people?
Well, what's really funny is that Apple said, or Steve Jobs said years ago, that he didn't look at stock prices so much. They wanted to put out good products.
Yeah.
And I am actually a firm believer in that if you put out quality products, then eventually your share price is going to meet up with the demand of what you're putting out.
Okay.
And I think a lot of this is coming from Apple's recent decision not to release unit prices because, even though everybody else does it, it's new for Apple. And people could judge Apple, unlike ways that they could judge other companies. So I think that makes a big difference right now. Obviously the entire tech sector these days is very volatile. So it's nothing that Apple needs to necessarily worry about, but there's always somebody at Apple that has an eye on that.
I think the key for people to realize is Apple doesn't pay attention to this stuff. Apple, as you said, Cook has said it, Steve Jobs said it, everyone at Apple says it. I've never spoken to anyone privately about this, but publicly they all say, we're not worried about the share price. We don't make decisions based on share price. We don't look at how we're going to bump our share price up in the future.
Right.
So, for the most part, you got to believe that Apple's sitting in there in the corporate boardrooms going, you know what, Wall Street just doesn't get us. They're punishing us for doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. So screw
Yes.
Wall Street. Just they don't get us at all. So we're just not even going to worry about it. Let other people worry about the share price. The only time it's going to affect
Right.
people at Apple are those folks who have shares at Apple who want to sell those shares. If you wanted to sell, if you bought Apple when it was 200 and it went to 233, and you're like, "Yay, happy days!" and now it drops to 188, and you wanted to sell it, that's going to hurt you. But unless you're selling, the share, the stock right now, it doesn't hurt you at all. It affects you not one bit.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I really honestly believe that Apple makes the best products that it can,
Yep.
based on the technology that's available, and they do a ton of R&D, so they know what they're putting out, and every time they put out these new products, they have record sales or record quarters of selling devices.
Yep.
Or some kind of record. It's amazing, and I'll say it again: if you make billions of dollars in profit, you are not a failure.
That's right. You can't possibly be a failure.
I don't care what any analyst says. You are not a failure. You are actually doing very well with billions of dollars of profit. And I would like to see that analyst run a company that can consistently make billions of dollars of profit.
Yep.
Because most of them, like the reviewers, would drive it into the ground.
That reminds me, there was a question I meant to ask when we were talking about the iPad Pro and the reviewers. Does this disconnect between what you mentioned? You said that the audience or the customer base seems to know more what they want than Apple does. Does this mean that Apple's sending review units out to the wrong people?
Well, I mean, Apple is going to send the review units out to the people that they feel influence buyers.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not going to stop reviews, good or bad, because people are just going to go buy them and review them anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not going to stop those types of reviews.
Exactly.
But so there's nothing that you can really do. Apple can't pick people that are only going to give them good reviews. The
Yep.
only thing that Apple can do is to pick the journalists who they feel that are responsible, that are influencers, and explain to them what they're trying to do with this product.
Yep.
And if the product, gets bad reviews, and they're fair bad reviews, then the product wasn't ready.
Yep.
And I'm on board with that. I have slapped Apple before. I'll probably slap them again, but I'm going to do it based on what I actually have in hand, not my personal feelings about the company. And I think that could be a big difference too.
Talking about Amazon and making billions of dollars, yesterday they announced that they were going to open up their new regional headquarters in New York City and outside of Washington, D.C. A lot of reports now that, and I posted this on The Loop, Amazon misreads the room. Casey Newton said there's always something distasteful about Amazon's quest to find a home for its HQ too. Even when it seemed like it might be a fair fight, it was depressing to watch so many cities and towns prostrating themselves before a tech giant in the hopes they would score a windfall of jobs and infrastructure investment. Isn't this just Amazon playing the game the politicians have set up for them?
Absolutely.
Is Amazon doing anything
Absolutely.
wrong in making these municipalities compete for those jobs and those headquarters?
Not a single thing.
Should politicians stop throwing money at Amazon to encourage them to develop their headquarters or anything else in their regions?
That's up to the politicians.
Yeah, I have a tough time blaming Amazon on this one, even though
You can't blame Amazon.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's what it boils down to. For me, these politicians are doing a cost analysis of, okay, Amazon is guaranteeing that there's, and I'm pulling numbers out of my ass here. So Amazon guarantees that there's going to be 5,000 full-time jobs at if they come into this county or a state or whatever.
Yep.
And we can make this much money off of this. How much state-owned land, how much state-owned land can we give Amazon to do this? Because that's just, it is state-owned land, but it's not like money out of our pocket.
Yep.
So how much state-owned land can we give them? What can we give them in tax breaks and still come away with all of the taxes and housing and offshoot benefits of those 5,000 jobs?
Yeah.
Okay, here's your number. Great. And then they go to Amazon and give them that number, and Amazon wants to negotiate, or, maybe they lowball them or whatever, and that's how the negotiations will work. But the politicians know what they're getting into. Amazon knows what they're getting into. And there's no reason why Amazon shouldn't go in and say, what do you got for us? No reason at all. Why wouldn't they? Because they know if they go to, a county, wherever, that they're going to offer them something.
Yeah.
Here's 100 acres of land. It's great commute. It's, all of this stuff is wonderful. And that's great. That's great. That's what they need.
I think part of the problem is that these politicians aren't making that cost-benefit analysis as you described, in that they're not ensuring they're getting back from Amazon more than they're giving Amazon. I think that's where these politicians will get themselves in trouble. Greg Blumenstein from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said that in Georgia offered Amazon a state-funded academy to train it. Jim, where are you in that kiddie pool?
I don't know. I mean, it's all of a sudden a whole bunch of kids came out from the restaurant next door, and they're just like screaming, and I'm glaring at the parents like, shut the fuck up.
I'm on the phone. Georgia offered Amazon a state-funded academy to train its employees, an exclusive lounge with free parking at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, a dedicated car on the Metro Area Rapid Transit Association, and $2 billion in publicly funded incentives. It's amazing what some of these cities and states were willing to give up to Amazon. They weren't ever going to get that money back in any way, shape, or form from 5,000 employees.
Look at it this way, because there is one more thing that I didn't get in there, and that's that the governor or whoever is going to be able to go to their constituents and say, we created X number of jobs last year. Doesn't have to be Amazon, doesn't have to be whatever. We created this many jobs. I mean, that's another thing. It's another little thing in their belt that they can use.
But those same politicians will get slammed for then cutting health care and services and the subway in New York City and because they got to pay for.
Do they get slammed?
Oh, yeah, they are. The governor and mayor of New York City are getting just raked along the coals this week because of that, because they've been cutting infrastructure costs, and now they're giving billions of dollars to Amazon, and they ain't getting that money back. And that money isn't going to go into making better subways for New York City.
No, it's not. But they'll find a way to spin it. So, bottom line, Amazon is not at fault.
Yep.
If all of the governments got together and said, you know what, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We're not giving you shit. Then Amazon would have to pick a place and go with it.
Yep.
But that's not what happens. And it's not Amazon's fault that that's not what happens.
Yeah.
It's nobody's fault. If any of these big tech companies wanted to go and set up HQ2, you bet they would all offer again, and probably more.
Yep.
Because they lost the first one, they don't want to lose again. So
And make no mistake, Amazon is not the first company to do this. This has been going on for decades and decades with various states and municipalities giving the kitchen sink to companies in order to have them build plants. I remember the Saturn plant, the GM Saturn plant in Kentucky. There's no reason for them to build the Saturn plant in Kentucky. It wasn't anywhere near anything. But because the state of Kentucky gave GM so many incentives, land and construction and tax breaks, it did make sense. It made money. It saved money for GM. It may not have been good for Kentucky, but it was good for GM. And if the politicians set this game up, their constituents can't blame the players for playing the game according to the rules of the politicians.
Nope, cannot. And where's the biggest? The big Toyota is in Texas.
Yeah. Yep.
BMW is in North Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah. So you think they didn't get incentives to build the biggest BMW plant in the world in South Carolina? Of course they did. I mean, and can you blame BMW for going around the world? This is a world thing and saying, yeah, we want to build the biggest plant ever.
Yep.
And we want to bring it here. What do you got for us? And, South Carolina gave up the firstborn of every person in the state, plus billions of dollars. And
I didn't know about that first clause. That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I let that out. I shouldn't have.
It's the insider secret there.
Yeah, that's a Heineken talking. So I mean, it's not the company's faults for playing the game that the politicians set up to play. And if people are angry at somebody for this happening, be angry at the politicians.
Yep.
Don't be angry at Amazon for looking for the best deal. Of course, any public company like this, Amazon, Apple, Google, whatever, they have a fiduciary responsibility to make money for investors.
Yeah.
That is it. That is it. Their financial responsibility is not to go make low rent housing for people because they moved in and now things are more expensive.
Yeah.
That is not part of what they're responsible for. That's a government responsibility, and the government just gave all that money to them to move there. But it's not their fault.
Folks, we're talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He's here each and every week, whether he wants to be or not. It's part of his parole. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Shawn.
See ya.
Bye.
Folks, when we come back, we'll have our starting point for Dogview segment. We're going to be talking about backups. Stay tuned. All this and much more, including more information about the ZAGG giveaway, ZAGG.com, coming up right after this message. This is your Mac Life.
Hello, my name is Melissa King. I'm your Mac Life's official spokes Australian. As Shawn begins his 25th year of broadcasting on the internet, he has asked me to say a few words to you all. Send money. What? Why not? More? Okay. When you listen to Your Mac Life, you'll notice there are no ads, no commercial breaks, no 5-minute ad reads for products you've already bought or have no interest in buying. That's because Your Mac Life is entirely listener-supported, and not even listener-supported via a paywall or a subscription service. It's simple. If you like Your Mac Life, you can pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to. You can still listen. But we'd really like it if you did. On the Your Mac Life homepage at yourmaclifeshow.com, on the top left, there is a subscribe to YML box. You can send any amount you'd like each month automatically from your credit card or PayPal account. It's set for $2, $5, $10 or $15, but you can set it for any amount by clicking the donate button. The best part is you'll barely notice it. It's $2, but it makes a huge difference to us here at Your Mac Life. It means we can pay for website hosting, internet access, new computers and software to run the show on, and so much more. So, if you like Your Mac Life, please subscribe. $2 will make a tiny dent in your wallet, but when enough people subscribe, it makes a huge difference to your Mac life. I'm Melissa King. Thank you.
We're back. Thank you guys very much for joining us here this Wednesday evening for the Starting Point Photography segment. Don't forget, as always, the website is startingpointphotography.com. I don't know how many folks have heard this story, but this, in some ways, this is an awful story, and I'll just read out the pertinent details. Photographer sues Adobe, saying a bug deleted files worth $250,000. Guy lost 100,000 files. Adobe's being sued by a commercial photographer and videographer who claims he lost $250,000 worth of work when a bug in Premiere Pro permanently deleted a huge number of his photo and video files. Premiere Pro has a function called Clean Cache that users can use to clear up temporary files that are generated in the course of working on a video project. Once the project is completed, Clean Cache can empty the media cache directory, blah, 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 blah. Well, what happened is, in 2017, users began reporting that Clean Cache was going beyond its intended functionality. This was a known bug, and deleting files found outside of the media cache directory. So what happened is, he told the Adobe software to do what it's supposed to do, clean the cache, and it went outside of what it was supposed to do and deleted files off of other devices, whether it be his hard drive or a locally connected backup. That's the gist of his case, that the software deleted his files. The first natural reaction that I had when I saw this story was, "You're an idiot." And the second was, "You're not a professional photographer or a professional videographer," because a professional would never not have multiple backups.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He is. I'm just ragging on him for that. Now, regardless of whether or not he had backups, and I think we haven't seen the response from Adobe. I think Adobe's going to say, if Adobe says, well, he should have had backups, Adobe's going to be dead wrong on that one. You can't demand that users have backups of their data. They should.
It's not for them to say, though.
That's right. It's Adobe software that did this. It wasn't his lack of backups that did this. If he hadn't used the software, his lack of backups wouldn't have affected anything. It's Adobe software that caused this problem. The only thing that Adobe can possibly do is say, hey, this was a known bug. We're sorry. We were fixing it, but we let everyone know about it, so you shouldn't have done what you did. This is going to cost Adobe some money. It's not going to cost them $250,000. I guarantee you that. It's not going to cost them $250,000. But the other issue for me is you should have had a backup, dude. You should have had multiple backups. Nowadays, backups are, for a lot of people, especially average people, easy to do. Apple's got Time Machine, which will do backups for you automatically. There are apps like Super Duper, which I love using, Carbon Copy Cloner, which I love using. All will do automated backups automatically. One thing that I've heard from a lot, especially new users, is backups are a pain because they take so long. Well, your first backup will always take you a long time because your first backup backs up everything on your hard drive. And nowadays, we've all got multi-gigabyte bunches of data on our computers. So when you get your new computer and you install all the software you want, and you see that your 100 gigabyte hard drive has now got 75 or 70 gigabytes left because you got 30 gigs of stuff, pictures and documents and software and that kind of stuff. And so you plug it in to do your first backup, and that first backup takes several hours. And you go, well, I'm not doing this every single time. Most backup software, Time Machine, and Carbon Copy and Cloner, and Super Duper, allow you to do what's called incremental backups. And that is, it will only do a backup of the things that changed since the last time you did a backup. So if you do a backup every day, it'll only back up the things you worked on that day. So if all you worked on was a Word document all day long, you worked on your manuscript, you worked on your university thesis, it would only back that up. It would back up Photoshop and Safari and all the other kinds of things. So your backups are very, very quick. Melissa did a backup today on my encouragement, and it took maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. Because you mostly work in documents, in Word documents. And those are very small, and so they're very easy to back up. The other thing you can do, too, to speed your backups up is tell your backup software to not back up things that you can easily replace. There's no need to back up Safari, because you can go to Apple's website and download Safari. Or actually, no. Safari is in your operating system. When you install your Mac operating system, it comes with Safari. So you don't got to back up Chrome, because you can always go to google.com and download Chrome. So you don't got to back up a lot of applications that you got from online, because you can, in theory, re-download them. The biggest problem with re-downloading applications is it's a pain in the butt to go and find all those serial numbers for all that software. That's where something like 1Password comes in very, very handy. I use 1Password to save all the serial number. Whenever I get a new serial number for a piece of software, I save it in 1Password. And that way, there's the name of the software, there's the username, and there's the serial number for the software. So if something happens, if it crashes or I lose it, boom, I got it right there. So incremental backups are very, very quick after the first one. The other thing you want to do is decide what your most important data is, and then back that up multiple times. Melissa's got a bunch of work documents, a whole bunch of Word files. They are on her hard drive of her laptop, and they're also on a backup hard drive. And people think, okay, that's great. I got one copy on my desktop, one copy on my backup hard drive. Fantastic. But I always ask those people, where's your backup hard drive? And they go, right here. No. Because if something bad happens, it could take out your backup hard drive too. So if, God forbid, your house burns down, your laptop and your backup hard drive are gone. If somebody breaks in your house and steals your stuff, they're probably going to steal the backup hard drive too. That's next to the computer. So it's good to have a backup hard drive next to the computer, or like Melissa does, in a desk that she brings out whenever she wants to do backups. That's great. In case your computer itself dies, and it can. There's the old line is there are two kinds of people: those who have had a hard drive crash, and those who will have a hard drive crash. Mm-hmm. Hard drives are physical objects; they're going to crash.
Mm-hmm. I've had it happen to me.
So have I. Not dozens, probably 5-6 times. Mm-hmm. I've turned my computer on and it's nothing, and it's dead in a doornail, and that's awful. That's utterly, because my first thought is always, when's the last time I did a backup? Mm-hmm. If it's never, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. All those photos, all those Word documents, all that software, gone. It's an awful, awful feeling, and I wouldn't wish it. Yeah, I would wish it on my worst enemy. I think, I would wish that on my worst enemy.
Well, you would, yes.
Because I'm small and paid that way. But so you want to make sure that not only do you have what's called a local backup, one that you can get your hands on in case your laptop or your Mac dies, but if you can, you also want an off-site backup. And back in the day when I was working in a real office, we backed up on tape. Everyone's computers backed up on tape each night. And we would take the tape out and put another tape in for the next day's backup, but that tape would go home with somebody. Because that way, if the building burned down or the tape machine got stolen, whatever, we had a backup of the previous day's work, and we would rotate tapes. Other companies have a more formal way of doing that. So if you can, one way to do your backups is to take your back up your stuff overnight, and then each day take that hard drive to work with you and swap it with another hard drive that's at work. So you'll always be swapping hard drives. That's great because that means you'll always have at least a 24-hour backup. Now, there are services that you can do backups online. iCloud is one of them. I wouldn't recommend iCloud because they only allow 5 gigs of storage, and that's like 10 photos for some of us. But there's a company called Backblaze that will allow you to do backups online, and it will back up only your important. You wouldn't back up your entire hard drive on Backblaze. You would save your important Word documents on Backblaze, and yes. Backblaze can be set up so that it does backups very frequently, once every couple hours. It'll automatically grab your documents and put them on the cloud for you. And because they're Word documents, they're small, and it's in the background, you don't even notice it. You don't even know that it's happening. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I was telling photographers that you should do a backup to Flickr, because Flickr at that time had a free account, and they gave you 1 terabyte of data. Unfortunately, Flickr's changed that policy, so you can't do that anymore. But there are other services. I believe Google Photos allows you to upload a bunch of photos to their service. The Pro version of Flickr allows you to back up a lot of photos to Flickr. So there's all kinds of ways to do backups. The important thing is you got to do backups. If you have anything important on your computer, and that's backups of your phones and of your laptops. And the great thing is backups nowadays, these are dirt cheap. This is a 2 terabyte drive that I use for remote backups. I take this with me when I travel, and so I'll have a backup at the hotel, and I'll do backups daily from on the hotel. But that 2 terabyte drive, I've got it linked if you want to get. This is a Seagate 2 terabyte drive. If you wanted to get it, you can go to our website, yourmaclifeshow.com, and on the right-hand side there, I've linked this to the Amazon link for this, and it's $65 for 2 terabytes, and it's literally, just slightly bigger than my iPhone. So this thing goes into a backpack. This thing goes into a briefcase. Really, buy a couple of these, swap them out. The other thing you can do with these is back up the family's laptops. Maybe not everyone in the family needs to have a Time Machine backup and backed up every single hour like Time Machine will do, but maybe you just want to go over to each person's computer once a week and plug it in and back up to these little small hard drives. Depending on how important your data is and how often it changes, you might want to back up more often than that or less often than that, depending on you. Melissa hadn't done a backup since October 5th. So if something had happened between then and now, she would only be able to get back data from October 5th. How much work would you have lost from October 5th to November 14th?
Oh, a lot, but not as much as I would lose if it was March or April or May or June.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be I would melt in a puddle on the ground.
that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Dave D says, Shawn, that looks like it wants to be lost. Surprisingly enough, I haven't lost this. I think maybe because I realize how important it is. And I've got other hard drives.
You mean like your iPhone 10 that you left on the seat behind you at the train? And okay.
What do you be like that for?
Do you have a link to the story? Because Susan was wondering if there was a link to it.
What story?
The story you're talking about right now.
Oh, the doofus? Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll post it into the IRC chat room. It's on photopixel.com, too, if you want to check it out. Photographer Sue's Adobe. And there are varying sizes of these things. I think Seagate also has got they got a 4 terabyte version of this for $100, and they got a 5 terabyte version of it for $119. So the 2 and 4 terabyte ones are different sizes. So this is the funny thing. This is how technology has changed. So this is 2 terabytes. How much is this?
Not even close.
But you think there's more terabytes in this than there is in this?
Yes.
Why?
Because I do. That's my guess, and that's my non-nerd guess.
Such a clever girl. Both have the exact same amount of data. But one is significantly, the one on the bottom is significantly older than the one on the top. This is maybe 6 months, a year old. Actually, no, I would have gotten to me just before I met you. So, but a year old, that's a couple of years old. But yeah, there's the size difference in that they'd be able to come down. And the other thing is they're faster too. So get yourself a hard drive.
I think Mo might want a link to those hard drives.
Yes, go to our website, yourmaclifeshow.com. On the left-hand side there, you'll see a little red hard drive. You can click on that, and it will take you to the Amazon page for the Seagate. And I've got no preference for Seagate over Western Digital or anything else. That just happens to be the one I've got. One of the things I have done in the past is I will buy hard drives from different manufacturers, so I don't get caught in case one manufacturer has an issue with particular hard drive. So the next one I might buy would be a Western Digital or iOmega or whatever. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you have backups whenever you possibly can. Something else about backups I wanted to mention. Oh, one of the things that we're going to do when we go to I just want to get this company. When you travel, it's hard to do backups. It's hard to do offline backups when you travel because you're not at your home internet access. You don't want to do it at the hotel because it's either insecure or slow. You certainly don't want to do it at a Starbucks. You might not have the time. So what I've been doing is I've been looking for ways we can do backups while we're in Lisbon, and I might have found an interesting solution. It's called the Quilt Shoebox. It's a very odd name for the company, but what it is you plug in this USB device. I'm going to cover up Melissa's face while I show this to you guys. Sorry, Melissa. You have this Wi-Fi device that you plug in your drive to the Wi-Fi device, and then everybody who has access to that device can download stuff onto the drive. So what that means is you take a bunch of photos on your camera card, and we can hook up a camera card to this and then dump everything onto a hard drive. Because you don't need any kind of interface. It's all done on the phone. And so the idea is going to be that we're going to be able to do backups while we are in Lisbon. And it's a way for folks to send their photos to me so that so I can look at them and edit them and then show them off when we do our photo critique at the end of the week. So it's called the Quilt Shoebox. And I don't know if it's going to work, but they're sending us a review copy to see if we wanted to play around with it using when we're in Lisbon. There's emails. I get email. Here's my email box. YML. Yeah, not that one. I lost it. Sorry. Hang on. As always, you can send us emails to on air at yourmaclifeshow.com if you want to get us to talk about it during the show, or Shawn at Your Mac Life Show anytime during the week. Get an email from Scott Randall. Scott has moved. Scott is no longer in New York State. He's living in sunny Arizona. Good for you, Scott. He wrote, I had an opportunity to try out the new MacBook Air alongside the previous model at a local Best Buy. I was pleasantly surprised when I typed on them. I had expected not like the keyboard on the new model. After reading several reviews, I have to say, however, it was fine. Keyboards are so personal. The way a keyboard feels in your hands is different for most people. The keyboard I like, you might not like. The keyboard in your laptop, you might like, I might not like. It's very personal. The Retina screen is nice, but on this small of a screen, I do not see a significant difference between that and the older model, at least for what I and my wife would do with it. This is mostly for her, so I would definitely go with the previous model, which you can still buy. The big disappointment for me is the lack of ports. My present MacBook Air, I need all 4 ports when I use for lecturing. I teach college classes part-time. Driving a projector eats through the battery charge very quickly. For that reason, I have to keep the charger attached. Of course, the output to the projector is needed. I always use a mouse. I don't feel like I can depend on wireless, so that one's a USB port. I also keep my iPad attached in case I need to show something handwritten, so that uses a second USB port. I know not everyone needs all of them, but you should be able to keep the power adapter attached and still use the other 2 ports. Paying extra for the new MacBook Air and also having to buy a dock between $200 and $300 does not seem worth it, at least for me. I must add, however, that I use the MacBook Air only for lecturing and presentations. Everything else I do on my desktop. Apple's going to say, if that's the case, then the MacBook Air isn't the machine for you. The MacBook Air isn't the machine designed for folks who need to do the kind of thing that Scott is talking about. Scott's response is, I don't need it to do anything else. I only need it to do presentations. I only need it to do lectures. So there's a disconnect between what Apple feels is the use case for the product and what the customer feels is the use case for the product. Someone's going to say, well, just buy the MacBook Pro. Well, then he's buying too much computer. That's always going to be the dance you do when you have very specific needs for a product. The more specific needs you have for the product, the less likely a product is going to fit those needs perfectly for everything, whether it be price or features or ports and things like that. But I agree with them. I don't like the idea that the MacBook. I had the same issue with the new MacBook Air. Taking away all those ports, I understand why they do it. It's for thinness and portability and that kind of stuff. But it wouldn't be the machine that I would buy in order to do what Scott's doing, presentations and things like that. So keep that in mind when you go to buy this kind of stuff, that you might not be able to get exactly what you want, and what trade-offs are you willing to get? What are you willing to give up in order to get something? For Scott, maybe the MacBook Air, its lightness, he doesn't need it. If all you're doing is presentations and lectures, well, you're not what we're using in a coffee shop. You're not carrying it to an airport. You're not lugging it around campus. It's going to be in a backpack that you walk to your car. Maybe you wouldn't need a MacBook Air. It's tough. But I understand what Scott's saying. But it's tough to get everything exactly right for every single customer. Dave D says Mac Minis. That might be a solution for Scott too. Is a Mac Mini where you can plug this stuff in. Mac Mini is a little, got no screen. It's just a little tiny box with a bunch of ports in the back. And the idea is Apple says you bring your own laptop. Sorry, you bring your own screen, your own keyboard, your own mouse. It doesn't come with any of that stuff. It comes with just the little box. And then you add your own keyboard and mouse and that kind of stuff. It's in theory cheaper. So maybe that's what Scott uses, is a Mac Mini and does it that way. So what else was there? Something else. Help me here. What the hell was I supposed to talk about? What did you want to talk about?
In starting point?
No.
Oh, like you often mention to me what you're going to do in this segment, but didn't mention it.
There's something else about backups that I wanted.
Oh, did you get? Was it from today that you thought about it?
Oh, that's right. Melissa had this issue with iCloud Drive. You want to explain to people what happened with iCloud Drive?
Well, I don't think I can.
That's the problem. That's exactly my point.
I just was very distressed because I need things very quickly to attach to emails and all my documents and things like that, because I have to deal with a whole school district. So
iCloud Drive,
I couldn't attach. I couldn't find my document.
iCloud Drive had been turned on. Melissa's laptop is a I guess government issued laptop. It's a work laptop, and the nerds who set it up set her up with iCloud. Well, this is great. It means that her desktop and her documents are backed up to the cloud. Fantastic. Wonderful. Except if the nerds don't explain to the user why they've done this, how they've done this, what are the advantages of doing this, and how to use it, you get confused. It worked fine for the most part up until now. It just happened to be this one day, this one time, you needed this one thing done, and iCloud was getting in your way. Mm-hmm. And it was getting in your way because you didn't even know it was there.
No.
You had no idea that it was turned on, that it was doing what it was doing. And it was very confusing for you. And that's completely understandable for you. The problem is, what happens quite often is the user thinks, oh, I must be a moron. Where is this file? I've done this 100 times. Mm. Why can't I just save this file? Mm-hmm. Well, what it was that you were saving it to the iCloud Drive, but looking for it on your desktop.
Well, Apple didn't ask me if I wanted to save it to an iCloud Drive.
That's right.
Or whoever is supposed to ask me.
It just did it automatically. It set it up automatically. And that's where your confusion comes from. And that's where you get frustrated and maybe even angry at yourself for being, why am I such a dummy? Why can't I figure this out?
No, I was just more frustrated and angry.
But I hear that from a lot of people is I'll see on the mailing list, I feel really stupid asking this question. And they ask the question, there's no way they could possibly have known. Apple didn't explain it to them. The nerds that their computer up didn't explain it to them. Or Apple's changed something for no apparent reason, and they can't find or do that thing they used to be able to do every single day. What happened? And they don't know. And they feel stupid because they don't know. And it's not, I've always said this, that one of the problems we have with computers, and one of the reasons why I like the iPad so much for new users, is people are told by nerds and smart people and TV, computers are easy. They're easy to use. The Mac is an easy computer to use. So then when things get difficult, you think, well, if this thing is easy and I can't figure it out, I must be a moron. No, toasters are easy. Computers are hard. Stop telling people computers are easy. They're not.
No.
They're not easy at all. They're fiendishly difficult little bastards. Especially because most of us don't get trained on how to use them.
Well, I mean, I see. For you, it's instinctual.
Yes.
For you, you can navigate it. I mean, I can navigate and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
But
once you get outside that narrow confines of what you need to do and want to try do something different, that's when they get really hard.
yes.
That's when they get really confusing. That's when they get, and I've seen you, and you told me that the school district doesn't do this. I've seen you do things on your laptop that there are so many easier ways to do this thing that obviously no one taught you so there's no training in your school district on how to use the computer. They just give it to you.
Well, I mean, they offer the occasional way, unless I would take it to an individual that worked at the school district and saying, I've got these issues, and she would just sort of elaborate and go on. But for her, it was very instinctual, so she's going through everything really quickly, and you're going, okay. And then I just go back to just doing it in my simple, inefficient way, I suppose. As long as I get my reports done and can attach emails, because it's an email-based school system. Everyone's emailing each other.
And it doesn't help that you're using Outlook and Word and all those.
They changed it.
And those products are nightmares all by themselves.
Just awful, awful, awful.
MacMan says, maybe it's just me, but I don't like iCloud. It never seems to work right for me. I'm the same way, MacMan. I don't use iCloud for anything. I do my own local backups. I then do my own backups on the cloud or on my own backup hard drives. But yeah, I don't use iCloud for anything, for photos, for nothing. I just don't trust the cloud.
I mean, how
general.
would I have gotten that document today? How would I have gotten my updated document? I don't understand.
Want to send another quick shout out and big thanks to the nice folks at ZAGG, ZAGG.com. I want to read this blurb again. Now I'll do the first blurb. I love their hang on, let me get this. Oh, it's not the right one. This one. I love their one of their taglines. Technology moves fast, but life moves faster. At ZAGG, they create products that keep up with you to make your life truly mobile. The nice folks at ZAGG are a new prize sponsor here at Your Mac Life. So what we're going to do is starting December 5th, we're going to give away a ZAGG product from the family of ZAGG products. They are the brand manager for Invisible Shield, Mophie, my favorite battery packs, ZAGG themselves, iFrogs, and Bravin, or Braven. I got to find out how to say that. I want to say Bravin, but I think Bravin sounds cooler rather than Braven. Anyway, I'll find out from Jeff at ZAGG how to say it. ZAGG products are available worldwide. Can be found at leading retailers including Apple, Best Buy, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, Walmart, Target, and Amazon.com. Their website is ZAGG, ZAGG.com, or at my favorite battery pack, Mophie.com. They're going to give us products to give away once a month from now until our trip to Lisbon next March 23rd to 30th, 2019. But what we want to do is we want them to come on board as the trip sponsor for the Lisbon trip. And the way to do that is we've got to show them, I have to show them, that the Your Mac Life audience is smart, is handsome, is pretty, is valuable, has money, will spend it. All of those things. In order to do that, I need your guys' help. What I need you guys to do is, when you hear this episode of the show, whether you're listening in live or whether you tuned in by the archive, if you're on Twitter, their Twitter handle is at ZAGG Daily, at ZAGG Daily. At Mophie is another website, another Twitter handle, at Invisible Shield, at iFrogs, and you can send tweets to those and let them know you heard about them on Your Mac Life. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, you follow me. When I tweet something about these guys, I really need you guys' help, your guys' help to retweet this stuff and make your own mentions of that, because if they see that there is value in this prize sponsorship of Your Mac Life, maybe, fingers crossed, they come on board as a trip sponsor. My idea for the... I shouldn't say this. My idea for the trip sponsorship, I want ZAGG to do this. I want them to give the grand prize winner one product from each of their companies. So one product from Invisible Shield, one from Mophie, one from ZAGG, one from iFrogs, one from Brabant. And I want them to pay the expenses for someone to go to Lisbon.
Oh, that's a grand prize, isn't it?
I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to send one listener to come with us to Lisbon, I think that'd be a really, really cool prize.
Did you suggest that yet?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
That's what I told them. I said I wanted to have an all-expense-paid trip to Lisbon for one person. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. If they liked photography, you mean?
Who cares? Would you turn down a trip to Lisbon? Someone said, here's the money to go to Lisbon. Would you say, nah, I don't want to take pictures?
I don't know.
Would you say that?
I'm
no,
not
you
sure.
wouldn't say that.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, come on. Of course you wouldn't. So that's why I'm saying we have to make this interesting enough. So the other thing you want to do, too, is send an email to ZAGG, ZAGG, at yourmaclifeshow.com, because we're going to put those in a separate prize draw folder than our regular monthly prize draws. So there's going to be a whole separate ZAGG prize draw virtual hat. So ZAGG at yourmaclifeshow.com. Please send those emails off as soon as you hear this message. For you folks who are subscribers, your name's already going to go in the hat. But if you want an extra one, you can go ahead and send an email to ZAGG at yourmaclifeshow.com. One email per person. Subscribers, again, get the extra ones. But if you're not a subscriber, one email per month per person. Actually, not even per month. Just send me one email each month, and I'll add your name to the hat. That way you can get 4 entries. So at the end of it, you'd have 4 entries in the contest. There was something else, and I'll be darned if I can remember what is going to make me crazy. You know what? I'm going to remember like 5 minutes after the show's over.
Yes, probably.
All right, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I hate that feeling. I've had it all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so frustrating. Brain not working properly.
You need a backup.
I need a backup of my own brain. Yeah, that's interesting proposition. So yeah, ZAGG at yourmaclifeshow.com, and ZAGG Daily is their Twitter account. You can find them on Facebook too. It's ZAGG, ZAGG, and send them messages via Facebook. That's it, folks, for tonight's show. I want to say thanks, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Don't forget he has his own podcast called The Dalrymple Report, also available on the iTunes Store. Melissa and I have another podcast, too, in case you don't get enough of this already. It's Don't Listen to Us, also available on the iTunes Store. You can go to the iTunes Store and do a search for Don't Listen to Us, and you can subscribe to that podcast. It's a Sunday morning podcast where we talk about everything.
People are enjoying it, I think.
We talked about pooping at the office last time.
We did.
That's the kind of show it is. That's why it's called Don't Listen to Us.
Being paid to poop.
Which I think is a great idea. Melissa, not so much. I think it's a brilliant idea.
MacMan has heeded that advice, and he's never listened to it.
See?
Don't listen to us, and he says, no, I won't listen to you, so he's never listened to it. That's okay.
That may be defeating the purpose, isn't it?
What, by not listening to it?
By saying Don't Listen to Us.
I like the name.
I like the name, too.
Yeah.
Folks, that's it. Thanks to Jim. Thanks to you guys for being tuned in the show, whether listening in live or tuning into the archive. As always, this has been Your Mac Life. I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And you're listening to Your Mac Life. See ya.
Bye.